This is BoomerLife on CL 650.
You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away.
Welcome to BoomerLife on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. Today we're speaking with JimeDoyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group Financial Services. Jim, you present yourself as an experienced, well-rounded, educated planner, and you've got quite a few credentials tagged onto your name as well. CFP, CLU, TEP, CDFA, CIWM. That's way too many letters. But most importantly, you bring to the table almost 27 years of experience, and I'm hopeful that you're going to share some of that experience with us today. So before the break, Jim, we were talking about some of the issues planning for special needs children and a number of the planning issues that you might want to consider looking at. So most people never disclose the details of their estate plan to their children when they last wrote a will or where it's even located. And many of these same children are also the trustees or executors. And as a result, I've heard this many times before, that when the parents die, then the kids are left to guess about what their deceased family's members' intentions are. And it's really unfortunate that this often leads to a lot of potential family squabbles. And I don't think any parent really wants to unintentionally leave a legacy like this to their kids. I know that's sort of a broad topic, but I know your experience can help wade through it.
There are countless stories of children who were unable to find mom or dad's wills, or worse still, they're trying to sort out some of the out-of-date provisions. Legislation is often revised or updated, and too often when a parent dies, there's a lot of misunderstanding and conflict amongst the children.
Well, there are few subjects as intimidating as money. Almost everyone has an opinion about it, but how many know with any confidence or degree of certainty what to actually do about it? What could you do to avoid leaving such a legacy to your kids?
Many of the families we work with, they have a bit of wealth, and it's not uncommon for them to think, hey, I'm average. There's nothing special about my family. That is until we start talking about their family. A family meeting held at their home or at their lawyer's office, including some of the key advisors in attendance, can go a long ways towards clarifying family objectives and wishes.
Well, it sounds pretty heavy, Jim. Some kids, regardless of age, need help managing their finances. And sometimes children who are generally good with money make a lot of mistakes if they inherit a large sum of money all at once. And we talked about this in a previous show. It's kind of like winning a lottery for them, and it's usually mismanaged. So if you happen to be anxious about your child's ability to inherit, well, Jim can actually help here.
Thank you. You know, personally, I find intergenerational planning rewarding because it gives me a chance to help the parents, but it also gives the parents an opportunity to enhance their kids' financial literacy, a lifetime of chances to make better financial decisions.
Well, if you happen to be anxious about your child's ability to inherit and you're ready to actually do something about it, I would like to encourage you at this time to give Jim a call, 604-682-5431. So, Jim, what's one example of where you see parents making mistakes here?
One area where we see this is when wills are not complete or haven't been updated for a long time. Maybe mom or dad just doesn't have a solution for the problem, so they procrastinate on it in terms of updating their will, ultimately leaving the problem unsolved.
Well, it sounds like a recipe for disaster. Talking to a good estate planner or a financial planner could be a great place to start. So when we speak about the family meeting that you touched on earlier, what would some of the topics be that you might encourage discussing?
Well, certainly I like the idea of talking about what legal documents are in your estate. The will, the power of attorney, the representation agreement, and any trust documents, as well as where they're stored and how you might access them.
Would you ever want to get into naming the executors and what their responsibilities might be?
I think that's a strong point. I think it's important to assure the family members that they have the right to know what is going on at each stage of the process, but equally important to give them some idea as to the timelines involved.
So, Jim, we hear a lot of beneficiaries can get frustrated with their executors because they don't seem to understand why it's taking so long. This sounds like a good strategy to manage those expectations. Does this also apply to those difficult assets like a home or a family business?
If desired, you could share why you made the decisions you did in your estate plan. Some parents worry that talking with their children about their estate plan will create conflict and hurt feelings. Truth is, this may be the outcome if you don't. You may also want to weigh whether it's better to disclose to an individual directly why you put that child's inheritance in a trust and why your decision to do so is wise and loving and not arbitrary.
Something that we often talk about on this show is the importance of planning for taxes. Could you explain to us, Jim, why someone might like to work with you to help address this issue?
It's not uncommon for beneficiaries to hear about the size of an estate and then be surprised when their check isn't what they thought it was going to be.
Why is that?
Well, a lot of executors don't have a good handle on the taxes involved when it comes to things like RRSPs, RIFs, or capital gains on stocks, on their non-registered investments, or real estate for that matter. Then there are the expenses of filing multiple tax returns, property purchase transfer fees, any ongoing maintenance fees, as well as fuel expenses. All of these can add up to very substantial amounts.
I think we've all heard that it costs a lot to die. Would you suggest that you talk about the size or composition of the parent's estate during one of these family meetings?
Rarely. And mostly because most parents we work with typically like to keep that information confidential. But that doesn't mean you can't use the family meeting to talk about your family's values to younger generations or use it to build and strengthen ties within your family and build relationships with your key advisors and your children.
So what I think I've been hearing is that by educating your children now, you can actually help them understand the rationale behind your estate planning decisions. You can also help them understand that your decisions have been carefully considered and based on good counsel, and that you have a chance to explore some conflicts or misunderstandings, and you may have an opportunity to actually resolve them.
Opening the lines of communication and sorting some of this out ahead of time is really important, because when someone passes and you have to deal with this for real, there's often a lot of emotion involved. Even at the best of times, you may not be ready for what to expect, the timelines involved, and or the multiple tax issues you're going to have to sort out. This is where we can offer a lot of help.
Tax and estate planning options are evolving all the time. And if you don't deal with this sort of stuff every day, it can actually be hard to ensure that you're on top of all the relevant details that you need to know.
A lot of stuff we hear about money from other people is dead wrong. Or more commonly, it doesn't apply when you consider all the facts of the situation at hand. It's not uncommon for individuals planning their finances to base their direction on myth, hearsay, what their parents did, or advice they received from friends, neighbors, co-workers, the internet, or media.
So, Jim, this is where we need you to share now. How do some of these myths develop?
Well, some we inherit. This is what we do in our family, as an example, or I saw it done this way. Some come from our egos, like the idea that we can determine the right time to buy or sell an investment. You know, buy high or buy low, sell high.
Well, it's clear that nearly every financial decision that you make or don't make can have a significant impact on some other aspect of your financial present and future. This is where the value of financial planning becomes apparent.
It can really mess you up if you only use advice on a piecemeal basis. It's almost a mantra in my practice. If I don't know, I can't advise. I need to create an environment of trust where clients let me know about the material changes in their lives, and then we can do some wonderful planning together.
Well, I can't help but feel that there's a sense amongst some of our listeners that they feel more processed than actually served when dealing with their investment advisors, who are more focused with completing the transaction than actually advancing the relationship. So if you have any questions or concerns about your financial outcomes or options, this is where you can always call Jim, get a second opinion. His number is 604-682-5431.
By the way, Joanne, I do welcome these calls. It's really wonderful in terms of continuity planning. Many parents we speak with would like their kids to know more about financial planning and investment matters. That's a lot of trust, and we're happy to help.
Well, that's some great advice, Jim. And I do think a lot of families are looking for ways to become more comfortable with having these types of difficult or potentially difficult family discussions. Where's the best place for them to get started?
If you haven't done it already, create a written financial plan and update it each year. In its simplest form, the plan will show where you are, where you're going, and what it will take to get you there.
Well, it sounds like we could all benefit from engaging a financial planner like yourself. You're listening to Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. Today, we're speaking with JimeDoyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group. And if you have any questions about your personal situation or you would appreciate a second opinion, I suggest you give Jim a call today, 604-682-5431, or send him an email if it's more convenient, jim.doyle@investorsgroup.com. And also like you to mark a date on your calendar, November 9th. It's a Wednesday. You can join Jim Doyle and his team for a very special seminar about downsizing your home for retirement. Is it actually worth it? So November 9th at Van Dusen, and Jim's going to pass along 5 easy steps that you need to know before you consider downsizing for retirement. We all share the vision of wanting to achieve more, but the question is, why are we floundering? Jim's going to tell us why and offer insight on which parts of our retirement planning are worthy of a fresh look. That's all coming up next on Boomer Life on CL 650.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.